To hit high notes. The Fort Wayne-based musical equipment dealer unveiling a $76 million plan to expand and add 1,000 jobs. Founder Chuck Surak is here with details and what it says about Northeast Indiana. Plus, Indianapolis might be known as the racing capital of the world when it comes to motorsports, but it also has a leg up on bicycles. ZIPP Speed Weaponry builds high-performance wheels seen on the biggest stages like the Tour de France. We'll go inside the high-tech world of wheels. And as e-commerce demand continues to grow, so does Pitney Bowes distribution operations in Indiana. We'll tell you about a new high-tech fulfillment supercenter in Greenwood and share plans for hundreds of new jobs. Details on those stories and much more ahead on this edition of Inside Indiana Business.
Stand by for Top of Show with music full. Stand by D1 Sound, sponsored open with music. Stand by camera 3 with Gary. We're out in 5, 4, 3, 2, dissolve, cue Gary.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Fort Wayne-based Sweetwater is an Indiana entrepreneurial success story, a leading online retailer of music instruments and audio gear. The company currently employs some 1,300 in Fort Wayne, hired from almost every state in the country, and now has plans to nearly double that workforce. Sweetwater says it will invest more than $76 million to build and equip a new warehousing facility and conference center with plans to add more than 1,000 employees. Founder Chuck Surak, a driving force for his company and Northeast Indiana, joins me now with details on this blockbuster announcement. And Chuck, as always, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary.
First of all, Sweetwater, as I said, is an entrepreneurial success story in Indiana, big operation. You didn't have to put this expansion in Fort Wayne. You looked at other places. Where all did you
Yeah, we did. There was a real strong pull to do something on the West Coast so we could serve our customers, but also economically, the states of Nevada and California were pulling really hard and offered quite a few incentives and wanted us to be there.
At the end of the day, why did you choose Fort Wayne?
End of the day, I chose Fort Wayne. It is home for me. It's home for our 1,300 employees, and it's a great place. Indiana is a great place to do business, and I was just a little uncomfortable that we could get the same sort of culture in Nevada or California that we can get in Northeast Indiana.
And on top of that, and we talk about it a lot on this show and our properties, what's going on in Fort Wayne, in particular downtown, there's a lot of momentum. Did that play into that, especially in that whole talent attraction piece? You're going to need to attract people to work for you.
Absolutely. It kind of started about 10 years ago with the ballpark, and you fast forward, we've had so many investments in our downtown, and that's the kind of thing that potential applicants look at before they move to Fort Wayne. About 3 employees we bring in from all over the country. You're right, we have 48 states represented, 7 different countries, and they all Google Fort Wayne before they come there, and it's great that we really have a quality of place from the riverfront development we're doing, our landing, new hotels. It's a whole new downtown for Fort Wayne.
Before we get into details on the expansion, give us the thumbnail for those who don't know, because the Sweetwater story is an amazing one. If I remember right, you founded the company in your parents' VW minibus, I think, or something. It's a crazy story.
I did. 1979, my mom and dad gave me their beat-up VW bus that they had wrecked, and it's hard to believe that it'll be 40 years in January that we've come from the VW bus to the 1,300 employees, and a lot more to come.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about this expansion and what you will be adding with this expansion.
Yeah. Right away. In fact, we already broke ground, and we're starting a 350,000 square foot distribution center. A lot of technology in it. There'll still be a lot of people working too, and then we're also going to build a convention center, and we'll use that for our own internal training and concerts and that sort of thing, but also for the community. We make sure that all of our space is available for the community to use.
Talk about, Chuck, the kinds of jobs, kinds of people you're going to be looking for, because obviously it relates to what you're doing in terms of musical equipment and audio and a lot of customer service that makes you unique.
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people thought with the new distribution center they were simply warehouse jobs, and there will be some, but the majority of the jobs jobs are either sales engineers jobs or people working in the accounting department or marketing or merchandising. And clearly today, the internet, web is a big part of what we do. So a lot of technical jobs will be through this whole process.
Also talk about your campus. We're seeing some video of that right now because it really is a cool campus. You talk about Google and all the tech companies and the amenities and cool bells and whistles. You've got a lot of those at your corporate headquarters.
You know, I hear pretty regularly that we're like the Google campus, but I've never been there. I'd like to go someday. But yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff. We have our own really high quality food service. We've got a slide so you can go from the second floor to the first floor. We have a full-time doctor that's completely free to our employees, a hair salon, a whole gaming area. And we also work at our company, but I just feel that our employees and our guests and customers are so important. You have to treat them well, and that's one of the differentiators for us.
Going forward, what in your view, you've got this big expansion that will take place really, you've already broken ground, so the next 3 years, what's going to really drive, in your view, drive growth at Sweetwater?
We're very fortunate. Our model fits neatly between the other 8,000 independent music stores and even Amazon. And we do a lot of consultative sales, and the products that we sell, all the instruments that are used on stage, guitars, drums, keyboards, or at the church, or even at home, are getting more and more technical, but they're also getting more affordable. So our customers need help figuring out how the pieces work together. And that's the real strength at Sweetwater, and we think the growth is going to continue for a very long time.
Chuck Surak is the founder, CEO at Sweetwater in Fort Wayne. Congratulations on the deal. Thanks for coming out. We'll look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, still ahead, Ball State has released phase 2 of a study that looks at the Regional Cities Initiative. Is it fueling quality of place improvements as promised? Ball State's Beth New and Greater Fort Wayne Inc. CEO Eric Doden are here with some answers. But first, for decades, ZIPP has drawn on a relentless drive for innovation and wide, high-performance bicycle wheels. It's a mindset that led the Indy company to pioneer the use of the wind tunnel in that industry. It's time now to go inside innovation, brought to you by DMI, mobilizing enterprises for the connected world. Well, ZIPP Speed is best known for designing, prototyping, product testing, and manufacturing carbon composite bicycle wheels seen on some of the biggest stages in the world, including the Tour de France. ZIPP is this year marking 30 years in business and is deeply rooted in both bicycle racing and motorsports, applying a blend of old world craftsmanship and new world technology. For more on another Hoosier success story, let's turn now to ZIPP's Advanced Development Director, Michael Hall, and PR Content Manager, Dan Lee. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Dan, I'll start with you. I want to obviously talk about the company, but I mentioned the Tour de France. These products, these wheels, and you can see, I think, an older one and a newer one in front of the set here. These wheels really are on some of the biggest stages in the world.
That's right. We were founded in 1988 by an auto racing engineer here in Indianapolis, and it's always been about speed, which is the name of the game. And so it took us some time. First, we broke into pro triathlon, then pro cycling, and we're in other events now, pro cyclocross, anything with road bikes. Yeah, and the growth has been substantial since 1988. You were acquired by Chicago-based SRAM about a decade ago now, and that's helped growth. You have some 300 employees on the northwest side of Indianapolis. That's right. We have a full manufacturing site on the north side of Indy in Pike Township, and we've grown there. We were home in Speedway for a long time, but we outgrew that and moved north a little bit, and that's been a great home for us and allowed us to hire all the great engineers coming out of Indiana, many with motorsports experience. Yeah, and Michael, you're a great example of that. You're a motorsports, a reformed motorsports guy, right?
Exactly.
So you're a former motorsports guy, now into the bicycling. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, so it was actually a fun transition for me. So I'd always worked on designing race cars, but I never got to experience the product. And it wasn't until I got in with ZIPP where I could actually design the product, understand how it's made, and go out and ride the product for myself, right? And that gives me feedback as an engineer, and it was a very fulfilling transition for me.
Talk about, to give people an idea, because when you say high tech, I don't think it does it justice. The technology, the R&D, the things that go into these wheels are really off the charts.
Yeah, exactly. So all of our rims are made out of carbon fiber. So basically, if you think about pieces of fabric that we assemble one by one, a rim will have 20 different layers of this, and all that's engineered for a specific application. And it takes us about 20 hours to make a rim. And really, here in Indianapolis, we do all the design and develop the manufacturing process to make that happen.
Yeah. Dan, the fact that ZIPP is here, started here, but has remained here and grown here, has been very intentional. That connection to speed, the connection to motorsports, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, all of it kind of makes sense.
That's right. A lot of the outdoor industry and the bike industry are in the mountain states, but we're very purposeful in being here, and that's why SRAM has invested in us here in Indy. And, as I said, we just have that, we use a wind tunnel that's just a couple miles away from our office in Indy. We have Rose-Hulman and Purdue, among other places, to recruit, engineers from. So, and we're only 3 hours from our headquarters.
Yeah, in terms of, talk about that wind tunnel, Michael, because you hear wind tunnels in motorsports and other, the automotive industry, but in bicycles as well.
Yeah, so I really cut my teeth in the wind tunnel development. Worked for Menard Cheever years ago, basically designing cars for Indy racing. And then I transitioned into ZIPP, and actually it was a nice fit because ZIPP was really known for pioneering development in the wind tunnel, and so we just picked up some of the stuff that we were doing in motorsports, kind of brought that to the bike industry, and we've really been able to advance the product just exponentially over the years. Yeah,
Dan, as we wrap up, we're going to continue to see the ZIPP wheels at big events. I know you got a big event coming up soon. We're going to continue to see these on a national stage.
That's right. Next week, we'll be out in Hawaii getting ready for the Ironman World Championships. We've got 2 former winners, among other professionals, on our wheels there and the Big Island.
All right, very good. Dan Lee, also Michael Hall from ZIPP Speed. 30 years in business, 300 employees here and doing business on a global stage. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, here's what's on tap now in tech news, served up by Sun King. Indianapolis-based Torchlight has secured a $3 million round of funding from backers including former Salesforce Marketing Cloud CEO Scott McCorkle and a new investor, Salesforce Ventures. The digital marketing talent platform says it will use the funds to boost its global network of freelancers. This latest investment brings the total amount raised by Torchlight to $5.5 million since its founding some 3 years ago. A suburban Marion County school district is opened a new space focused on career-based entrepreneurial and high-tech skills. Decatur Township's Innovation and Design Hub focuses on student-directed and community learning initiatives and includes interactive whiteboards, 3D printers, and a computer programming laboratory. And Indianapolis-based Centric has announced the winners of its 2018 Indiana Innovation Awards. The think tank says the honors go to individuals and organizations who are leading the innovation charge in the state. Winners include Heliponics' GrowPod, Demand Jump's Traffic Cloud, and the Mad Optimist. And for the complete list of winners, as well as Tech News 24/7, be sure to check out InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Still ahead, Pitney Bowes has opened a new fulfillment center in Greenwood. Company leadership will show us how technology is driving an expansion that could mean hundreds of jobs. But next, Ball State's Indiana Communities Institute conducted more than 30 interviews and on-site visits, all part of a study on the impact of the Regional Cities Initiative. We'll take a look at the results next. Here's what's making news now around Indiana, brought to you by your Indiana Fever. Well, an executive behind a more than $350 million development planned in Northwest Indiana likens its potential to a, quote, mini Amazon deal. Merrillville-based White Lodging Investments and Development Division CEO Dino Yinkis says the proposal, which includes multiple hotels, entertainment, and conference venues, as well as residential space near I-65 and US 30, will transform a high-profile area that used to be home to the Star Plaza Theater and Radisson Hotel. A global news publication reporting that South Bend-based AM General is up for sale. Sources tell Reuters the Humvee maker has hired an investment bank to find potential bidders. The deal, Reuters sources suggest, could exceed $2 billion. KOKOMO-based Cardinal Metal Finishing has announced the layoffs of nearly 80 employees in Howard County. In a notice to the state, the company says the move is due to the loss of a key customer. And Indiana's tax climate, once again among tops in the nation. The Washington, D.C.-based Tax Foundation's 2019 State Business Tax Climate Index ranks Indiana 10th for its overall tax climate and #1 in the Midwest. And the University of Notre Dame has completed installation of what it calls the largest green roof in Indiana. The layout on the Joyce Center includes more than 32,000 trays of plants and a rooftop irrigation system. Well, in 2015, Indiana rolled out the Regional Cities Initiative. It's a statewide effort designed to help attract and retain talent in Indiana. Ball State's Indiana Communities Institute is out now with part 2 of a study examining the impact of the initiative, and it found 3 distinct themes. Joining me now with what those themes are and more, pleased to be joined by the Institute's Director of Public Policy and Engagement, Beth New, and also Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. CEO, Eric Doden. And welcome one and all to the program. Beth, I'll start with you. This, again, the second phase of a 2-part study. First phase looked at the economic, I think more the economic impact. This more on the qualitative impacts of the Regional Cities Initiative. Your biggest takeaway?
Well, a couple things, really. The biggest, of course, is really the true enthusiasm that it has generated in these 3 communities. Enthusiasm not only by the elected officials, but by the citizens. They can see the new development going on, and they're excited to be part of that, and they see some real promise for improvement. Yeah,
and that is, just in terms of that community pride thing, you feel has a real impact in those communities, regional cooperation as well.
Right, yeah, that's one of the other takeaways is the collaboration, which of course was the intention all along, but people I've talked to in all 3 of the regions says there's more collaboration, and they expect those partnerships to continue into the future, not just for one single project.
Yeah, Eric, this report suggests that the impacts have far exceeded expectations. You were at the Indiana Economic Development Corporation when this was all being put together. You were very much involved in it. Your reaction to what has transpired with the regional cities?
Well, this is exactly what we hoped for, Gary. I mean, we were in a position where we wanted to improve communities, see them collaborate, become more regional. Most of us work in the region. We don't necessarily work in, we might live in one county, work in another. But just to see the private sector dollars of $853 million, $1.2 billion worth of projects started in basically 1 year, and then to see the emotion, the energy coming from these 3 regions, it's been amazing.
And you mentioned kind of expectations when it came to the mix of public and private investment that would happen. It's really been different than what you expected as well, right?
Right. I mean, we were hoping that it would be 60% private, 20% state, 20% local dollars, and really what it's been closer to is 80% private, 10% state, and 10% local government dollars, and that really bodes well for our future.
Yeah. Beth, as you look at some of the, you did numerous interviews with communities and others around the state. What else really stood out to you in terms of beyond this, this community pride and the collaboration? What else really stood out to you in this qualitative aspect?
Well, one of the things that everybody said in all 3 regions again was they were real impressed with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, that they didn't try to mandate what projects, but they let the locals come up with their own vision and what they wanted to see and what they thought were most important. So that was extremely important to not only just increase the enthusiasm, but the buy-in, and then that has already done some spin-off. So if a neighbor fixes up his building or a new improvement goes in, somebody said, hey, they can do it there. I think I'll make an investment in my building too.
And the investment has gone, again, regionally, because you talk about Fort Wayne, Northeast Indiana getting the grant. It's not just Fort Wayne, but investment in some of the rural counties around there as well.
Right. Of course, Northeast Indiana is the largest geography region. I mean, they incorporate 11 counties in their whole region. So there are projects that went on in LaGrange and Wabash, down in Huntington County, and of course up in Steuben County. A really cool project up in Angola was the new ice rink that they built up there, and that has, you know, really engaged a lot of people, not just in Steuben County, but people then come from around the area to use that ice rink now.
Yep. Eric, give you the last word. The ask for Regional Cities 2.0 will be in this legislative session. With this information, I'm sure it's going to be part of the pitch, right?
Right, and so we're working with business leaders all over the state, especially the 3 that won, and saying to the General Assembly and to our governor, we really think this should continue. $150 million would allow us to get to about 11 regions, which is all of the regions really when you look at it. And so we see it, we want to see what's happening in those 3 regions expand, and then $100 million with the regional development tax credit, which would allow for development to occur in rural communities.
All right, very good. Eric Doden and Beth New, Regional Cities impact very substantial. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Well, coming up next, Pitney Bowes. It's opened a big fulfillment center in Greenwood. Company leadership says e-commerce growth made that expansion necessary. That's next. Well, Connecticut-based Pitney Bowes officially cut the ribbon this week on a high-tech fulfillment center in Greenwood. Inside Indiana business reporter Mary Rachel Redmond has details on the center and the company's aggressive hiring plans heading into 2019.
That's right, Gary. The global technology company says it has plans to grow its new Greenwood Supercenter's employee count from 100 to 300 employees over the next year. The new positions will be traditional warehousing jobs that will give workers the opportunity to work with state-of-the-art technology. Pitney Bowes says the Fulfillment, Delivery, and Return Supercenter is powered by 63 small robots that perform put-away and picking functions from over 29,000 stacked bins. Senior Vice President Nick Pellegrino on how the center in Greenwood is changing the game when it comes to the logistics and supply chain business.
A lot of companies will do just the fulfillment process, where you store the inventory and you process e-commerce orders. And then there's other companies that just do the transportation. They'll deliver the package to you at your home address. We've bundled all three solutions into the same room. So we can send a package outbound to a consumer, we can handle that return, we can open up that return, disposition, if it's returned to stock, which most times it is, we can put it back into inventory, and then with our fulfillment solution, we can now redeploy that inventory and move it back out. So having all three solutions under one roof is very efficient, and it actually increases the cycle time to get credit if you're a consumer. It takes merchandise and moves it quicker in the supply chain.
Once final phases of construction are complete on the Greenwood Supercenter, the production floor will span the length of 3 football fields. At full capacity, Pitney Bowes says the facility can process up to 44,000 parcels per hour and pack over 34,000 products a day. Gary?
All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. Coming up, Carmel-based Olio says it's found a way to be HIPAA compliant and close the communication loop between hospitals and therapists. Kylie Valletta has details in the business of health. Stay with us.
Stand by D1 Sound, sponsored open with music. Stand by camera 3 with Gary. We're out in 5, 4, 3, 2, dissolve, cue Gary.
It's time now for the business of health, brought to you by Hendricks Regional Health. Well, the healthcare industry is shifting its focus to episodic care. Hospitals, for example, are reimbursed based on the entire episode of care rather than for each service provided for the patient. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta tells us how a Carmel-based tech startup is streamlining the process.
Thank you, Gary. Consider a knee replacement, for example. Previously, hospitals would be reimbursed based on the surgery itself, but the focus is now on the entire episode of care. That means the day of surgery and the entire 90-day recovery period afterwards. That's a big shift in how hospitals do business, and helping providers monitor patients along that entire timeline is a new tech company called Olio. I'm joined now by Chief Executive Officer Ben Forrest. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Olio is a SaaS company,
yes.
Software as a Service, and you say that in episodic care, the main stumbling block is communication. So tell us how your software helps.
Yeah, you know, a patient's journey throughout their episode of care starts in the hospital a lot of times, but then ends up moving to, you know, maybe a skilled nursing facility, their home with a home health agency, and there's a big stumbling block right now allowing physicians, surgeons, administrators at the hospital the ability to communicate with the physical therapists, respiratory therapists that are treating patients in facilities and their home.
So tell us also, you know, you help with communication among all those people, but what kind of data or insight does your software also provide? Yeah, so not only do we bring those providers together to communicate in one like space, a digital space, we've automated therapy feedback. So the respiratory therapy team being able to give a digital automated therapy feedback back to the pulmonology team, orthopedic surgery, being able to see feedback from physical therapy on their total joint replacements. We've automated that. Right now, therapists are filling out tedious fax forms and sending them off to hospitals, hoping that that data is relayed correctly, and it's a bit of a messy process. We've automated it, made it simple, and we're really excited to bring this product to market so that we can ultimately improve patient outcomes. So you're in your infant stages.
Yep.
What does your launch strategy look like?
Yeah, so we are excited about what we're calling Olio Day. January 10th of next year is a national launch For our company, we are moving fast and selling hard here in the state of Indiana. We have several local orthopedic organizations, private practice orthopedic groups, and hospitals with strong interest here in the state of Indiana. But we're really gearing up for bigger things, a national launch where we can really drive to hit our revenue goals that we have set for ourselves.
And speaking of growing fast, your team has grown significantly in recent months.
Yeah, it has. It's fun and exciting to watch not only a business plan, but really a team mature. We went from the 5 founders of Oleo to a team of 15 today. Really, really excited about our team. Smart people, engineering, marketers, salespeople, customer success folks, all working together, and we're really, really focused on our growth strategy.
And you're launching the product with the orthopedic and cardiovascular specialties,
correct.
But can the software be tailored for other specialties?
Yeah, that's really, you mentioned early in the intro, you know, there's certain types of surgery, types of disease states where hospitals are assuming some risk. And so we're continuing to build innovation through Oleo to cater to our hospital customer so that they can have a better collection of data to treat patients in an episodic care model.
So your hospital, the hospital networks are your key customer.
Correct.
And then the other people use it free of charge?
Yeah, we give them access to the database at no charge. We really just ask that they allow us to service their account, keep their account current, train, educate, and really want to provide a valuable product to the hospital at the end of the day.
Just a few seconds left, but you have a physical presence in Carmel as well.
We do. We're excited really to be a part of the indie tech community, to be a part of the healthcare IT community across the country. There's a lot of change in healthcare. There's 11,000 seniors aging into Medicare every single day. So there's a lot of innovation, and we're really excited to be a part of that community and part of the indie tech community.
Well, Ben Forrest with Oleo, thank you so much for being here. Good luck as you launch.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Gary, back to you.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Well, the Conner Prairie Living History Museum is focused on inspiring curiosity and fostering learning throughout its history. Now a $70,000 grant from the Duke Energy Foundation is helping bring STEM-related education and hands-on activities to elementary students at their schools. In this week's Ion Education Report, Conner Prairie CEO Norman Burns is here to explain how the initiative works and the potential impact. And Norman, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah. How about in terms of Conner Prairie and this $70,000 grant from the Duke Energy Foundation, how will it be used?
Well, actually, it's being used to help us do outreach throughout the state. So we're going to be serving, especially those counties that find it difficult to get to Conner Prairie because of transportation issues. So we'll be touching 69 of the counties within the state of Indiana. And we do some outreach, but most of the school systems come to Conner Prairie. For instance, last year, we served over 60,000 students in 78 of the 92 counties. So when you look at it, the Prairie Mobile will give us an opportunity to take this integration of history and STEM education and put it into the classroom, and we think we're going to reach at least 4,000 additional students in this first year.
A lot of focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math education all over the state of Indiana. This fits right into that sweet spot, if you will. Talk about that because you mentioned it, that merging of the new STEM and the old history, the rich history of Indiana and Conner Prairie.
Yeah, it really gives us an opportunity to kind of integrate the history, the storytelling of Conner Prairie, if you will, with that. When you think about history, a lot of people think it's boring facts, but actually humanities itself is kind of an integration of all those things because man's curiosity is what led him to come up with science and math and engineering and technology so he could build things and do things. So that's what Conner Prairie has always been doing. So integrating, once again, these historical stories with science and mathematics and such gives students an opportunity to really experiment and critically think and problem solve. And that's really what a history site like Conner Prairie does well.
And this is part of I think what I would say is maybe a broader effort in doing new things. We did a story earlier this year on the new makerspace at Conner Prairie, which really connects with young people in a very modern way and some of the real trends going on right now.
Well, that's right. That's another example of problem solving, applying what we do well in the 19th century in Prairie Town and taking those skill sets and putting them in a modern setting so children have an opportunity, and adults alike, to actually come in and build things and learn from it. And so it's been a huge success for us.
Back on the STEM initiative with Duke, this is focused on young people ages 2 to 6, right? And you're also going to integrate Conner Prairie, the interpreters and others are going to be engaged in the process. That's
correct. Actually, our educators, interpreters will be going out and they'll be taking on characters. For instance, it might be a farmer from 1936 who's talking about Rural Electrification Act, but we'll also talk about circuitry and things like that as part of the demonstrations that's being done. It might be a female aviator who's talking about the science behind flight and those types of things. So some of the things that we've done so well with our Create Connect exhibit at Conner Prairie since 2014, another project that was actually funded by Duke, and we're taking that on the road in the Prairie Mobile for the first time.
All right, as we wrap up, how's business? The nonprofit business is very competitive these days. The museum business very competitive. How are things at Conner Prairie?
Things are going well. Last year we had all-time record attendance, and as you can imagine, when weather's bad and road construction, things may be a little off, but we've had a great year, and we're looking forward to everyone coming out for our Headless Horseman here this month.
It's that time of year. Well, Norman Burns is the CEO at Conner Prairie. Thanks for joining us to talk about this new STEM initiative. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, still ahead, our insiders will sound off on some of the week's top stories. But first, the field is set, and 81 of the best women golfers in the world will hit the links in French Lick for the second annual Senior LPGA Championship at the Pete Dye course. Bill Benner has details next. Well, golf season is anything but over as the renowned Pete Dye course at French Lick prepares to welcome back LPGA standouts for the 2018 Senior LPGA Championship. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill?
Thanks, Gary. Well, England's Trish Johnson will be back to defend her title against the likes of all-time LPGA greats such as Julie Inkster, Jan Stevenson, and Hollis Stacey when the 54-hole, $600,000 event tees off on Monday, October 15th on Dye's magnificent French Lick layout. And joining us today to discuss the event, which will be televised nationally on the Golf Channel, is French Lick Director of Golf, Dave Harner. And Dave, welcome. Always good to see you. And French Lick continues to make its presence known as you welcome back these great former LPGA stars.
We're always excited to see the ladies arrive. You know, they're a great group to work with. They really appreciate having a venue like ours to play, and we're happy to host the second annual.
Yeah, and the first was a year ago in July, and now you moved into the fall date. What went into to the date switch?
You know, we had a Symetra Tour event in July, and then backed right up to it was the Senior LPGA. And we really felt that the Symetra was a great event, standalone. So we wanted to sort of separate them, give the Symetra Tour event its identity, and move the seniors to the fall when we have some beautiful colors and great playing conditions.
And that is a spectacular property, as anybody's been down to French Lick, and especially the Pete Dye course. These women can still play. I mean, don't be taken aback or think that they're not what they used to be. They can still hit it.
Sherry Steinhauer 2 years ago in our Legends Tour event there bogeyed the first hole and shot 63. It's 9 under par. So, yeah, they can still play. And to watch Laura Davies hit the ball, you know, we have a lot of people in the pro-ams, and we have some club pros who play, and she consistently knocks it out there 280. So.
Steve Ferguson, you know, who's headed up the magnificent renovation of the French Lick Resort. Why is he attracted to the LPGA as he's been?
I think we view women's golf as an untapped, maybe not untapped, that may not be the word, but an under-marketed group, and we feel like the more women we can expose to the game and the more people who understand women in the game, the better. We started doing our Legends Tour event back in 2013, and it's evolved into this Senior LPGA Championship. And if you come out and you watch these ladies and you experience the tournament, you know, there are no gallery ropes. They're never too busy to sign an autograph. It's just a great group of ladies.
And I know one of the things that I do pretty much all during the years, I get the clicker and I say Golf Channel, and the exposure you get, I mean, this is, again, a great event, but the exposure you get for 3 days on the Golf Channel, that's well worthwhile.
We think, you know, by their numbers, somewhere around 1 million people a day will have exposure to the broadcast, and that's not counting the foreign countries who pick it up, and I think we were picked up in about 20 countries last year. So, you know, a couple of million people see us. You know, unless you see French Lick and you experience French Lick, you really really can't appreciate what's there.
Old National Bank back as the sponsor, and then Riley Children's Hospital Foundation as the beneficiary.
Right, yeah, Riley, this will be their, I believe, 4th year. Old National's been with us since 2014 with the Legends Tournament. Evolved into this, great group of people. They really understand the mission, and we want to do all we can for Riley.
And $5 tickets, I mean,
exactly.
that's a pretty good deal.
You know, it'd be great if people can't make the tournament to go on Ticketmaster and buy a $5 ticket just for Riley.
And finally, you're committed to this event through 2021.
That's correct, that's correct. We'll have it back 3 more years after this one, and the LPGA, as I said, has gotten behind the event and has really done a lot this year to help us promote and get people there, and I see that only growing in the future.
Well, Dave Harner, the Director of Golf at French Lick, we appreciate you making the drive up, and get down to French Lick, the women, the scenery. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Dave, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Gary, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Coming up, our insiders are getting warmed up to sound off on Merrillville-based White Lodging's $350 million mega project, the impact of the new NAFTA deal and what it could have on Indiana, plus Sweetwater's plans to add more than 1,000 jobs. There they are in the Inside Indiana Business Social Media Lounge. They'll join me in studio next. Well, each week, a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week, sounding off on White Lodging's big plans for development in Merrillville, Sweetwater's significant expansion plans in Fort Wayne, also reaction to the new trade deal between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Our insiders this week are Indy Chamber Chief Economic Development Officer Maureen Krause, also Mesereau Financial Retirement Planning and Advisory Client Relationship Manager Bruce Kidd, and IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul Hakim Shabazz. And welcome one and all to the Insiders.
Thanks.
This week, a couple of big economic development deals, big project deals, if you will, announced this week. Maureen, in Northwest Indiana, Merrillville. Lots of folks remember the Star Theater and the Radisson Hotel, I-65 and US 30 there in Merrillville. That has gone by the wayside. It's been taken down. This week, White Lodging announced plans for a $350 million project that would include hotels, retail, residential, horse areas, all a destination essentially created there to replace what was an iconic place with a new destination.
Well, I think that's a fantastic, first of all, the size of the development for that part of the state is tremendous. It's, you know, it's day trip, it's destination, but it really is pointing to, I think, what families are looking for is easy couple-day activities. Reuse of existing facilities or existing space is so essential for a community. You just shouldn't let things die. Figure out a better use, a more current use, or use for a future. So a lot of good to come out of that development. And once again, the size is really amazing.
And I think another example of the White family giving back to Indiana, Abdul, what is the significance in your view of the location in Northwest Indiana? So, you know, it's the gateway to Chicago,
gateway
as they
to
call
Chicago,
it.
You're easily within, as somebody who grew up in the city, within an hour's drive of almost anywhere from the city of Chicago, depending on, of course, traffic. You can bring people to, northwestern Indiana. It sort of also revitalizes that area. I always kind of jokingly say Northwest Indiana sometimes tends to be sort of the Forgotonia of Indiana when we talk about development and where things are going. But it shows that, once again, every part of the state is vibrant, healthy, and and making a comeback.
Yeah. Another big announcement this week came in Northeast Indiana in Fort Wayne with a great Indiana entrepreneurial success story. Sweetwater, they used to be called Sweetwater Sound. They're the musical equipment and audio equipment dealer. It's grown into really a large company, about 1,300 employees. Bruce, this week announced plans to add 1,000 additional jobs with a $76+ million investment.
Chuck Surak, I had the pleasure to meet him several years ago. He's built a phenomenal company, and he is, like you talked about, the Whites in Northwest Indiana. He's very committed to that part of the state and has built a real foundational company for that region. And I have lots of friends that are in the music business, and they're all customers of his because they have fantastic products, they have fantastic people,
and customer service.
Customer service. They just keep building and building. It's remarkable.
What does this say, Bruce, in your view, and anybody can jump in on this, but Chuck was on the show earlier this week and said, hey, we had offers from a lot of other places, especially out west, Vegas, the West Coast, where they've got a lot of customers. And he said, frankly, the offers, some of them were better financially, but he points to, he's from Northeast Indiana, he loves Fort Wayne, but he likes what's going on there from a momentum standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, he can be the lead dog, you know, if you will, in a revival or an expansion of that area. I'm sure he had great offers to go other places. I mean, we're not the centerpiece of the entertainment industry, but he's built such a strong foundation there, and he's so committed to the community. I'm delighted to see that he stayed.
And you can never underestimate the value of building in your own backyard, and sort of, you know, being home. This is where I'm from. You know, this is a place that has treated me well, made me the person I am. This is, once again, like you said, Gary, that way of sort of giving back to that community that helped make you what you are.
I think it shows, first of all, that, you know, business leaders appreciate the culture of the community they're in as well, where they can be successful and grow. And also, it's a great example of the strong manufacturing sort of history we have, but with the infusion of technology, we're so good at that in this state, and companies are growing and becoming global players by doing that.
Should mention a milestone for another big development. This one in central Indiana, the 16 Tech Community Corporation announcing that the first big building there is now fully leased. Will include the Indiana Bioscience Research Institute and some other tenants in that building. Maureen, as you look at that, this is a massive talent play, really.
Yes.
But just getting that first building, something you can see the impact that has.
We can show really cool maps and drawings and renditions, but once the steel starts going up, and because it's a beautiful plan, once we have a physical thing to show, it's going to be more rapid with the development going on there. So we're very excited for this announcement. It's a very solid start to 16 Tech.
I want to get your take, Maureen, on the new trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, replacing NAFTA. It's the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, right?
Yes.
There you go. Very good.
Yes.
Now, the trade tariffs on steel, aluminum, not part of this, but agriculture is a big part of this agreement. Your take on what it's going to.
I think even in Indiana, the steel component of all of these trade discussions and tariff discussions has been big and is still impacting our companies. The uncertainty is still causing companies to see rising prices. You know, we hear of layoffs in different spots. But I think a little bit agriculture's been forgotten. And when you look at the trade agreements, including the new NAFTA, because I still can't let it roll off my tongue, the USCMTA or whatever. NAFTA 2.0, I think the agriculture component is something that is equally important in our area, whether it's on milk prices or other, you know, soy or corn. So really important that we keep on this, and hopefully it will provide our firms some certainty so they can make decisions for the next year forward.
Do you get a sense that it will be positive, negative, no impact on Indiana?
The certainty will be positive. Because smart businesses will now be able to make smart plans with that certainty.
It's about the you make better plans, but I think, you know, this agreement is almost sort of overestimated, because at the end of the day, Indiana farmers who grow soybeans this has nothing to do with that. They're still going to be hurting because China is the big deal when it comes to
absolutely true. China's still the
big player when it comes to our soybeans. And number two, anybody who thinks that these agreements are going to bring jobs back, you are woefully mistaken. Automation has done more to take away a lot of these jobs than NAFTA and trade deals ever have and ever will.
The other thing that doesn't get in this, and not to start a whole new segment here, but immigration policies have impacted our agriculture community as well. Hence the need for automation if you have less workforce available. So that's another factor that really, there's several different things at play here.
Gotcha. Bruce, I want to get your take on a report out this week on Indiana's tax climate. Once again, some good news for the state. Washington, D.C. based tax foundation's state business tax climate ranks Indiana number 10 in the country, and again, number 1 in the Midwest.
I mean, this is a long-standing highlight of our state, that it's a great place to do business, and part of that is our tax structure. We've top 10 for years now, have we not? And as we were talking off camera, if you look at some of the states that are in front of us as far as top 10, I would be hard-pressed to believe that those states are going to recruit the kind of companies that we're recruiting to our state to set up shop. They might have great task bases, but I don't know that they've got the infrastructure, the support, the higher education, the workforce that we have. And so I think we're in a terrific position for the next decade.
Very good. Before we leave, Abdul, I want to get your take on State School Superintendent Jennifer McCormick unleashing her legislative agenda, but really making big news because you were there. She said, hey, I'm not running for re-election.
Yeah, we're there for, just for end of session, sort of begin next session report, what she was going to do. Next thing you know, oh, by the way, I'm not running again. Well, what? Yeah. And so she said, some of the noise, some of the back and forth she'd have with lawmakers, shocking to the point, but if you sort of follow this career along, not really surprising because the superintendent just never could quite break through some of that educational glass ceiling that had been there in the legislature. Do
you think this pushes then, there's been talk of making that position appointed, right?
Yeah, the law was changed last session to make it 2024. With her not running again, I wouldn't be surprised if it's come 2020.
Move that up. Okay, very good. Abdul Hakim Shabazz, Maureen Krause, Bruce Kidd, thank you one and all, and we'll be right back. As we wrap up this week, a reminder to subscribe to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, a condensed version of the show, perfect for the ride to work, the airport, or maybe the grind on the treadmill. The IIB podcast is free. Search for Inside Indiana Business at your podcast page or follow the links on our social media pages and website. Coming up next week, Inside Indiana Business Hitting the Road. We'll be coming to you from Greater Lafayette, known for 2 great cities and 1 great university. We'll dive into the state of business and innovation in the Wabash Heartland region. We'll talk to Purdue President Mitch Daniels, the mayors of Lafayette, West Lafayette, and a lot more. That's next week. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gary Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.
Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick is a production of Grow Indiana Media Ventures with support from WFYI Productions.